feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
Welcome to the Total Apex Media podcast. I am your host, Andrew Kim, and on the special edition, we are previewing the championship Sunday with the conference championship for the AFC and NFC conferences. My guests today are from Total Apex Sports, Bets, Fantasy, and the rest of the sites. Starting off, we have Chris Britton, then we have Brandon Ellis, and Jordan Ramos. What's up, guys?
What's up? How you doing?
What's up, everybody?
Yeah, what's up, Jordan?
Hello.
It's like we're kind of throwing it back to
Eagles die.
We're starting with this again. We're kind of throwing it back to what we used to do with the OG NFL podcast. But real quick before we dive into the conference championship games on Sunday, Brandon, you have some Eagles news you wanted to share?
Yes. Obviously, with the offensive coordinator search, we lost out on Mike McDaniel and Brian Daboll. Declan, we interviewed Bobby Slowick today for the job. Also, we interviewed the Chicago Bears offensive coordinator, Declan Doyle. Those two names are probably going to be the top on my list now of candidates that have been connected to the job. Now, if Brian Daboll gets the Buffalo Bills job, head coaching job, I hope Joe Brady interviews for that job and he becomes the coordinator. I just love what Joe Brady did in 2019 for that LSU team. I feel like he can replicate some of that stuff with this Philly roster. Get Jalen Hurts a little bit better, more confidence throwing the ball over the middle a little bit. He can do it. We saw it in the 2 Super Bowl performances. We saw it in 2024 for the most part. We just got to get the confidence back in this team. Also, in other news, NFC East news, Christian Parker, the former Eagles secondary coach and defensive pass game coordinator, is now the new Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator. It sucks as an Eagles fan that move happened. Obviously, I love CP. CP brought a lot of energy, a lot of juice to that secondary over the last couple of years with Vic. It's going to be interesting who they get to replace him. I think the early front right now is the safeties coach that's in-house right now, so I would like that a lot. Other than that, no other Eagles news to report right now, but stay tuned to Total Apex Sports. We will have all the latest updates on the site.
There's all sorts of news to give the Eagles since they, unfortunately underperformed this year.
Yeah.
I can't say I hate.
No, underperformance one thing. Underperformance
a little bit.
There's underperforming, and then there's legit diarrhea by the head clown.
Yeah,
that's on the sidelines. That needs to be shot last year. But don't worry. We'll keep Sirianni in for another year. Don't worry. We'll keep him and his bodyguard on the sidelines, and it's gonna be fun. Yeah. Let's go.
I gotta say that whole Philly situation is so interesting to me because it feels like every year Sirianni, there's weird stuff going on in that locker room, and AJ Brown seems to always have weird things going on, and yet every other year seems to work. I don't quite understand it. I'm confused on what
adults in the room.
He's a brilliant coach or an absolute moron. I don't know which he is. Maybe both. I don't know, but as
an Eagles fan, I'm like that too. It's just when some days I'm like Sirianni's one of the best coaches in the league, and some days I'm like, all right, it's time to move on from him. But we'll see what 26 brings. So.
Yeah. I'm going to save some of my Ravens stuff for a future podcast, but I know we have a lot of stuff to get into with Kristen's team, the Patriots. So that'll be a little later on. But Jordan, real quick, what did you think about the Giants stuff so far?
I'm ecstatic, Andrew. I'm ecstatic. I'm real ecstatic. You see my face right now. I'm very ecstatic right now. I'm very ecstatic to bring a retread in John Harbaugh, who hasn't done a damn thing in 10 years. Decade plus. But don't
Well,
worry. Don't worry.
He'll get you there. He'll get you there.
He'll get me there, all right. He'll get me there. He'll get me somewhere. It ain't the playoff, but he'll be somewhere.
Right. It's funny because the Ravens had that missed kick by Tyler Loop, but like the Giants kicking problems have been like a thing.
It's been a
yeah. Well, I find it
problem.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
You're just hoping that God John does something.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, and that obviously as a Patriots fan, there's no love lost for me with the Giants, not just because they're New York, but obviously we have some history there with Eli Manning, of course. But I will say I actually thought John Harbaugh was a great hire for you guys. And my thought process is this. I think the one thing that the Giants have severely lacked for a while now is a stable floor. And I think that's what John Harbaugh brings is a stability, a stable floor. You're right. He hasn't necessarily won a championship, but I think what the Giants need right now is some sort of stable baseline, and get that to be something consistent year in and year out. And I think that's something he brings. So I actually think it was the right move for them in this moment. Do I think he should be the coach for the next 15 years? Probably not.
No.
You know what I mean? But I think he can bring the Giants back to some stable level for the next several years that I think they've been sorely lacking for a little while now.
And the young talent there too with the Giants as well is like with Neighbors and Dart and Scattaboo, especially on that opposite and then Carter on the defensive side. They need that adult in the room, and they didn't have that this year. Dable. We all know what Dable is on the side.
They had adults. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Not the right adults, but adults.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a while since Harbaugh won that ring, like over 10 years ago. So, we're gonna quickly move on to the actual game. We got 2 games left, 4 teams, 1 shot at the Super Bowl. And then while we get on that, real quick, any thoughts on last week's games and even the wild card games and just the final 4 teams in general? Jordan, what are your thoughts?
Buffalo's. I've said before in a live stream I'm doing Buffalo's in hell. They did it to themselves. Even though firing McDermott has been long overdue, they're still keeping that clown Brandon Beane. The dude that literally drafted Keon Coleman with Terry Berger was like, the coaches stepped in all their stuff. I'm like, yet you promoted the dude that did this? No. Buffalo's in hell. Sorry. Yeah, Buffalo's in purgatory. They're not going to be great. It's going to be bad. Yeah, they're stuck. So have fun. That's all I'm going to say. Have fun.
Yeah. Brandon, I want to ask you, we're going to get into the whole Jarrett Stidham thing, but do you think this could be Nick Foles had some success against the Patriots team. I don't know. What do you think about that, I guess?
I see. That was the unfortunate part of last week was the Bo Nix news. For me, because I was really looking forward to the matchup of the 2 2024 draftees in May and Nix. I was looking forward to that against each of their defenses. The Patriots defense is really underrated, and especially when they got my boy Milton, I knew that defense was going to be good. But the Denver defense has been one of the best units in football all year long, most consistent unit. So I was looking forward to seeing how these 2 sophomores were going to navigate that in this game. Now we're not going to get the next side of it. So we're going to get Stidham instead, who hasn't played in a meaningful snap in over
2023.
They're confident. Sean Payton's confident in it. Obviously, what Stidham can do. Joe Lombardi, is confident the Denver offensive coordinator, as they said in today's pressers. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see what is going to happen with Stidham. I don't know if he'll be like Nick Foles in 27, in February 2018 to 2017 season. I just don't know about that kind of expectations for Stidham here. I think Denver's going to rely on the run game a little bit more in this game with RJ Harvey, than Stidham. But that's where I'm at with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Chris, you're a Patriots fan. You've had plenty of experience with Super Bowls and things like that. Out of like these four teams, whatever to make it, like how do you compare it to the past Super Bowls that we've had?
Yeah, so really quickly, I was just going to say, in terms of the playoffs in general, I think what's been awesome to see about this playoffs is how great all the games have been, or at least how pretty competitive. There's only been a couple real, blowouts. Ironically, one of them being Patriots were involved in, with the Texans, at least for the second half, So I've found that very interesting, and I think it speaks to the parity of this year. And yet, until the Bears won, 3 of the 4 teams were the top 2 seeds in both sides, which is equally as interesting to me. That despite the fact that we've talked all about parity all year long, it ended up 3 of the 4 best teams in the 2 leagues were the ones that are in the Final Four. So after all that, it seems like maybe they were the right teams after all. And I will say, the Patriots' history has been our Achilles heel for 20 some odd years has been backup QBs and Mannings, and double when it's been, or mediocre QBs, I guess you could say, not always backups, but just QBs that you're sort of like, oh yeah, the Patriots should totally destroy that team. And then we end up losing to them versus, some superstar we end up, shutting down, it's funny how that's worked out. But, I think the Patriots have a chance to show people this year, that it wasn't a mistake that they did so well this year. I think the conversation all season long has been, the Patriots have the easiest schedule. The Patriots aren't playing anybody. The Patriots haven't had to play anybody. The only team they played is the Bills, and they split it against them. Everybody else has been bad, and I think that the reality is, in this season, all the good teams have lost to bad teams. And outside the beginning, where I think Drake May was still finding his footing with the new coach and everything like that, the Patriots are the one team that didn't do that. They beat the teams they were supposed to beat and generally beat them pretty handily. You know what I mean? And I think that's what's been interesting about this playoffs run for the Patriots is, again, we haven't necessarily played crazy teams. The Chargers are a good team, but there was, some question about Herbert in the playoffs and also his ability, just in general in the playoffs. But also he was battling through some injuries at the end there. And then obviously CJ Stroud, had some notable struggles, and the Texans had some injuries. And now we're playing Denver with Bo Nix. And so the conversation is still, the Patriots aren't actually really playing anybody, and I liken that a lot to the Celtics the year they won their championship. It kept being like, oh my God, all these teams just keep losing their best player. The Celtics aren't even playing anybody. But at the end of the day, they made it to the end and they won in pretty convincing fashion ultimately, and I hesitate to say that's what the Patriots will do, because I think the NFC has some very strong teams. And I think the Seahawks especially look poised to win it all this year, but I think the Patriots have continued to just quiet people. And I think they played, despite the fact that we haven't played anybody, the Charger defense is good. The Texan defense is great. Now, as, Brandon suggested, the Denver Broncos defense is great. If we can beat all 3 of those defenses, all of which didn't have jarring losses on the defensive side. Most of the losses are on the offensive side. And Mays handled that pretty well, all things considered, for a second-year quarterback. So I think the Patriots are hopefully showing people that, we're back again, and that it's not a fluke that they made it here, despite the fact that some things have gone our way. And I think if we do make the Super Bowl, I think it's going to be closer that people might give us credit for, looking at it, just from a paper point of view.
Yeah. It is interesting. Like, we have the top 4 teams, like, Final Four. They all have, like, I would say top 5, top 6, like, defenses, like, throughout the whole year. Like, so it is notable in that regard. And then, like you said, Chris, like, with parity, yet we have the 2 MVP candidates, fighting for the Super Bowl. And, it's going to be very interesting. Like, this could be we could get back to, like, 2014, 2015, Seattle. Well, hopefully we don't get the blowout that Seattle did on Denver, because that was only fun for a Seahawks fan, but I hope it's a way more competitive game. But like Patriots, Seattle the year after in 2015, like that was a really good game. And you have that was the highlight Malcolm Butler pick in the goal line, I'm pretty sure, right?
Yes, that was that Super Bowl.
In fact, 3 of the 4 potential matchups are rematches. The only one that hasn't ever happened is Rams Broncos. So
yeah. And then 2019 we got the ugly Patriots Rams 13-3. Hopefully that is what we do not want.
But you talked about it wasn't ugly at all. I love that confetti.
No.
Yeah. But yeah, we're gonna start with just talking over some of the highlights from last week's game between the Patriots and Texans. Underrated. So in fantasy, like, I'm like a massive Travion Henderson guy. Like, I was on him, but I can't lie. Like, Ramondre really found, like, his footing this year. Like, especially as like a fantasy running back. Like, it was like underratedly, like, good. But Brandon, what do you see in like the Patriots offense that could potentially be, like, a playmaker on Sunday?
So first, I'll answer your question with this following stat. So all three of the 4 starting quarterbacks are in the top 5 of expected points added on 28+ air-yard passes during the regular season. May's the best EPA on 20-yard air-yard passes at 62.8. Stafford is second at 56.2 points APA. So expect a lot of deep balls. Expect a lot of big plays from trying to get the big play going in this New England offense as the highlights are rolling. Also expect the balance of Ramondre and Henderson. I think Ramondre is going to play a key role in this game for Patriots fans. Because Ramondre is going to be the guy that sets up Henderson for the longer plays later on, on third down, maybe like 1st and 5 or so, in the 2nd and 5. Like, he takes a toss to the house, and the guy that just scored, Demario Douglas, is going to be the guy for me. That's the X factor. I think that Douglas is going to be the guy that in this game, because I think Denver is going to key on Stephon Diggs. They're going to key on the tight ends. I think Demario Douglas is going to be step-up game against Riley Moss on the other side. And that's going to be the matchup. I think that will win or lose this game from New England.
Yeah. Shane Foley, I hope the Rams, and I guess that's the Super Bowl pick, Rams Pats. Hope they played better than the last time they did. Jordan, so with the Patriots defense, what are you looking into for that against a backup quarterback?
Against the backup quarterback, look at what they did. Look at what they did to Stroud, like 3 interceptions, 1 pick 6. You're expecting a Nick Bolt perform for that defense? Heck no. Like, it's mostly gonna depend on their cornerbacks and their wide receivers. Like, Gonzalez is gonna do well against Sutton. Like, you have to hope well they match up against their against what receivers game, because like it's like Brandon said, it's mostly going to be on the run game for Denver, but their run game has been underwhelming. Like it's underwhelming at best. Like RJ Harvey is fine, but like it's gonna be a rough game, and like Sean Payne, Sean's gonna try to do something cute, and it's gonna backfire on them hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Patriots and their defense, even though Harold Landry's out, they're gonna play fine. But my key thing is the defensive front against the Broncos offensive line. Yeah, like it's mostly gonna depend on that. Like in my personal opinion, like look in this. Like play action. They're both gonna depend on that, and like they're mostly gonna depend on yards at the catch from Mims and Sutton.
Yeah. It is interesting. Like Denver is 8-1 at home this year, and they're only lost to the Jags. But the Patriots are also 8-0 on the road. So something's got to give in this type of matchup. Before we get to Denver, I did see a thing where that like when Christian Gonzalez and Milton Williams they both play, like they're undefeated, like they don't lose. So the Patriots are the road team that they do get
Warriors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I also really quickly, what I just wanted to jump in on with the Patriots defense specifically. Well, I wanted to bounce a little bit off of what Brandon said too. But as far as the Patriots defense goes, yeah, our cornerbacks are fantastic. Our young cornerbacks are fantastic for sure. But what's being underlooked here, everybody's talking about how Denver's probably going to have to rely on the run game. And I agree. They probably will. At least they're going to protect Stidham. And really Stidham is a game manager. That's the type of quarterback he is. He's not the type that's going to chuck it up like CJ Stroud did and potentially get 4 or 5 interceptions, but he's also not going to win you a game. He's a game manager. The problem is the Patriots' run defense is actually better than their pass defense, at least statistically this year. So I don't know how much Denver's going to, especially because if we all know that Denver's going to be trying to rely on the run game, I darn sure can tell you that, the Patriots in the locker room know that's what they're going to be doing too. And the Patriots have a strong run defense. So that's going to be concerning. And as far as their running backs, I agree. I think Ramondre Stevenson, because of his fumbles in the beginning of the year, the way it sort of turned to Trayvon Henderson, people forget that Ramondre was a fantastic running back for the last several years. He was really the only offensive player that meant anything for the Patriots, the last couple years. So people sleep on him as a player, but he still is that running back. He's not old, he's still a young player. So we really have a tandem there that could wreak havoc if that's what the Patriots want to do on that front. So.
And I'm going to play back on what Chris was saying about the defensive line. I think Milton Williams comes alive like he's been doing these playoffs again. Milton just shows up in these playoff moments like he did it for Philly, especially last year's run. He did it for Philly. He's doing it for Vrabel now. Milton Williams probably going to be regarded as the top free agent signing of the 2025 season in the last offseason. And he was probably one of the most underrated signings for New England at the time, because a lot of people were like, oh, Milton getting that money, I guess because of the Super Bowl performance, this, that, and the other. I was like, when I saw that, like, New England's back, because Milton is so good for Philly, and I love Milton. So,
yeah. On the screen here, the Patriots are road favorites by 4.5. It was 5.5 like 2 days ago, and it dropped a little bit. So that's
probably the injuries because Harold Land's out.
Yeah.
I think Denver. I think Denver covers in this game. I think the defense. It's going to be like that Chargers game in round 1 for New England. I think this game's probably going to be like in the teens, if anything, maybe low 20s. With how it's playing, because the defenses are going to carry the day. I think May will get a couple big plays to Douglas or Diggs, down the sideline, or Henderson's going to blow one run. And I just don't know if Stidham can match up. That's where I'm at heading into this game on Sunday. Now, Stidham can prove us all wrong and be the next reincarnation of Nick Foles, and ruin the Patriots, dream season. It could happen, but I just don't
It'll
see
be
it.
funny though.
History is on Denver's side with that, with not having a great quarterback but having a fantastic defense. That's how Peyton Manning won there. I mean, his neck was held together with super glue and duct tape that year. The defense did it. So it has happened in the past for Denver. Where they relied on that defense to carry them, and they have.
Right. Chris, I can. Yeah.
I'll have to add something.
Yeah, sure.
Keyshawn Butte, 3 receptions, 75 yards, and a touchdown. He's probably going to be an X factor too.
Mm-hmm.
You have 3 solid receivers that can be low key help you out win the game. That's why I think New England's covering.
Yeah. Well, he's going to be covered well. There was a comment from one of the viewers earlier about that and how Booty's going to be covered pretty well. But we saw that last week, and May's very first touchdown pass ever. It was a perfect throw, and Booty can catch. You can't cover. Nobody was covering the TD that Booty had last week. It just, I don't care how good you are. That was
nobody can cover the Booty
perfectly, And so I think the same, if May can get it to him, he's gonna make the catch, So.
Yeah, that's like his game. Like he's like a physical receiver, like him and Kyle Williams. All they do is downfield, big time throw and catch. And I can guess, Chris, you're gonna pick your home team to cover. Yeah.
I think my personal prediction is 23-13. I think May figures out that defense enough, and I think Denver's going to score. I don't think they're going to be shut out or kept totally down the way that everybody, I think, would expect based on Stidham. I think they're going to manage it enough to get some points, but I just don't think – I think the Patriots are going to find enough open space to, a shot here, a run there, and score a couple TDs. So it's 23-13. That's my prediction.
My score prediction is 20-17 New England. That's where I think a field goal within the last couple minutes. I think it's going to be tight throughout because Denver's defense is going to rise. Pat Surtain, those boys aren't going to let the game get out of hand. I could see what Chris is saying with 23-13. That's viable. Especially May figures out some stuff and doesn't turn the ball over like he did against the Houston defense last week. And given, because if he turns it over against his Denver defense, I think Sean Payton will make sure they capitalize on those short fields, unlike what Houston did with Stroud last week. So that's where we're at. That's where I'm at with that. The X factor for me is coaching, like we're bringing up right here. I think it's going to be the battle between Sean Payton's mind and then the Vrabel-led defense. I think that's going to be the battle of this game because for me, as an Eagles fan, watching the Eagles defense last year in Super Bowl 59 against that Mahomes team, it's basically what we could see with Stidham at quarterback. It could happen like that. And I'm not predicting that to happen, obviously, but it could happen like that this Vrabel-led defense could shut down Stidham as well if they shut down the run game and take away Sutton. They take away Lil Jordan Humphreys, the big play to Lil Jordan Humphreys. They take away what Sean Payton wants to do here. It could get ugly in Denver. But obviously, I think Sean Payton is a well-regarded offensive coach enough that he's going to keep the game within single possession throughout. I think it's going to be a nail-biter for everybody in this game.
Yeah, and I want to cue you up, Jordan. RJ Harvey only had like 6 carries last week. Jaleel McLaughlin only had 4. J.K. Dobbins did return off IR, but he ruled out for this game.
And that is why run game's gonna die because I don't trust the run game. I just don't like you. Even though we're gonna get the Bills, like they're mostly depending on like Bo Nix getting like 12 rushes, like, and it's mostly scrambles. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like McLaughlin, like Andrew said, 4 carry for McLaughlin, 6 carry for RJ Harvey, like for a combined 41 rushing yards. You kidding me?
Yeah,
Like,
don't forget like the Bills defense too. Like the Bills run defense was notoriously bad.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
And against the better run defenses, and Ben Barmore, again, he's mostly he's assaulting the offensive linemen. We must avoid all the other controversy between the Patriots right now, okay? But like a key matchup is mostly New England's corners against the wide receivers of the Broncos. Because you got Sutton to look after for. You got Mims, who's a speed threat. You have again Lundro and Humphrey. Even though he dropped some passes, I'm like, he could still play well. Like the Titans are not that good. Ingram's just
Yeah.
Along with and for an X factor, for the Broncos, it's their defense, it's their linebackers against the tight ends. It's mostly based on that. But for New England, some X factors, the Henderson and Stevenson duo, like there's a reason why a lot of people want Henderson over Stevenson, because Stevenson has been having fumbling issues. Like the dude was having some brutal fumbles, and like Henderson has been a hot hand. So you're probably gonna go with that. But like as Brandon said, like you gotta go with Stevenson first. Then when they're looking down, like get Henderson for those big plays, because like you need to get that run game going. Because I don't trust the Broncos run defense. It's just, I don't know. It just feels something off. Along with Stidham starting, because like Nitz, even though I'm not a big Bolton Nitz fan, he has been playing well. He has been solid, and he can run too. Like he has good mobility, better than like, which he can't run like
Right.
God.
Yeah.
God, sucks. Stinks. Sorry.
Yeah. Chris. You saw Henderson, like, when they drafted him, and a lot of fantasy players got hyped, and he's been coming along, like, kind of slowly. He's had some, like, boom games, when he's had a chance. Yeah, like what do you think about, like, his, just, like, not just, like, the impact of this game, but just, like his overall, like, usage, like, throughout
yeah, can you repeat what you said? I'm sorry, you cut out a little bit, so I can hear the name.
Yeah, like, what are your thoughts on, like, just his usage throughout the season, Travion Henderson, and, potentially for this game?
Yeah, so I think I was upset that they weren't using him earlier, quite frankly. I thought that the capital that they used on him, he should have been playing more. In a way, I understood why they didn't, because, like I said, it's not like Ramondre Stevenson is bad. I mean, he had some of those fumbles, and it was a struggle in the beginning. I think the best usage, in my opinion, for the two of them in this game is to look a bit at what the Lions have done with Jahmyr Gibbs and that whole situation the last couple of years. I think, not to compare Travion Henderson to obviously directly to Jahmyr Gibbs. Obviously, Jahmyr Gibbs is a special player, and I wouldn't say he's close to that. But I think he's the sort of speedster, whereas Ramondre Stevenson is sort of the consistent bruiser. Both of them can take off for 20, 30 yards at a time. But truthfully, I think they should be mixing and matching and using both of them fairly evenly. I think that's the way the Patriots should go with all that. And just to throw one other, I agree with every X factor we've talked about. One that we didn't talk about for the Patriots is Carlton Davis III, who got
he's cleared.
Who was injured last week. He is playing. And I think he's going to be an X factor on that defense, specifically because, we're going to be looking at Christian Gonzalez and some of the other stars. And I think he could be somebody that wreaks havoc there that, if he's actually healthy, which the Patriots are confident he is. So that's somebody to watch for too in that game, I think.
Yeah. And then, we're going to move on to the Rams Seahawks game with, we have Rams highlights showing up. They have their own running back duo in like Kyron Williams and Blake Corum.
That's gonna be an X factor. That's gonna be an X factor against the Seahawks. But it's like their secondary can have boom or bust plays. It's just that I just don't trust them. I'm sorry, Cam. The only reason Cam Crow got that interception to end that game in overtime was because DJ Moore didn't run that route. He was just sleepwalking. He was like, bro, and that's probably gonna run him out of town.
Mm-hmm.
It's that you have a lot to depend on that offense. You have to depend on you have to depend on the crew trying to do well against Witherspoon. You have to depend on the tight end situation. The Rams have to do everything right, just like in their win in LA. But they have to depend on the secondary, which I think is a weak spot. That's Seattle's going to try again.
Right. Brandon, so the Rams in November beat the Seahawks 21-19 in LA, and then in overtime, they lose in Seattle 38-37 in that, probably – I feel like every primetime game is almost like game of the year now. There's so many candidates for that. But that was one of the first ones both their games total decided by 3 points. Do you think the Rams could get it done again but this time in Seattle?
This is going to be probably the winner of this game is probably going to win Super Bowl 60. For me, just because the Patriots are unproven in the big moment. They've proven it so far, against in these playoffs so far, and I love what the Patriots are going to bring over the next few years. But this Seahawks team and this Rams team are ready for the big moment, and I just don't know what the AFC champion will bring to that game. Now, moving on to this game specifically with the Rams and Seahawks, I honestly think Seattle is going to win this game. I honestly think that. I think Darnold's oblique injury withstanding, of course, making the throw to JSN rolling left with his oblique injury was probably the toughest thing. And as we're about to see, I think Shaheed is going to get another return touchdown in this game like he did on the opening kickoff as we're watching right now in front of your eyes on this podcast. I think once again,
Kim could try to do a Pele move. He literally tried to do a soccer move. He failed.
Yep.
Let's go. Yep. But I agree with you.
I think Shaheed is going to get another return, a big return. I don't know if he'll go for a touchdown, but I think we're going to get another big return and a couple big returns in this game for Shaheed because the Rams special teams have still been an issue for most of the season. I know it's been mostly the kicking aspects of it, like the punting and the kicking the field goals, but I think their coverage is susceptible to Shaheed return, and I think that's going to be the difference of this game. I think we had this Darnold and also Sam Darnold taking care of the football. If he doesn't see ghosts, we'll be fine with my pick. So that's where I'm at. I think Stafford's going to have a great game. I think he had 417 yards. His seat are 400 some yards in that thriller that Andrew brought up, and him and Darnold are also on that list I brought up with the EPA as well. Both quarterbacks are great in the EPA. If you're curious about the other two, it's Dak Prescott and then Jalen Hurts are also the other two quarterbacks on that top five. So,
oh wow, Jalen Hurts. Interesting.
Yeah. Jalen Hurts is above Darnold on that list. 20 plus EPA on 28 plus air yards this season, and so I was like, so that's the thing. I honestly think Seattle at home, especially if they get a Shaheed return, that crowd in Lumen Field is going to be the difference.
Right.
Along with linebacker play, those linebackers killed the Niners side ends.
Yep.
They were just
Oh, yeah.
destroying them in that run defense.
Yeah, and the Rams,
You know, those two things.
And the Rams use like 11, 12 personnel, and they have Colby Parkinson and Terrence Ferguson. They use all of them, so that's going to be another big thing. But I want to tee it up to Chris real quick. So before this game, actually during this game, we found out that Max Charbonnet tore his ACL, I believe. So
Yes, he's done
Chris, how do you think Kenneth Walker is going to do? Like he'll split time with they'll play a little George Holani. Like we've seen him this season earlier, but Zach Sherman, the RB1 now. Like how do you think going to do against the Rams run defense that had they actually shut down the Bears running game when they needed those yards because Swift could not get in. They Monaga was pretty good, but how do you see that, Chris?
Yes. Well, so Kenneth Walker, is an interesting case, and I think it's interesting against the Rams. And I have some thoughts on both of these teams, actually. But in terms of Kenneth Walker, I mean, 2 years ago, he was, and I think of it from a fantasy perspective, too. He was a second-round pick only a couple years, what people thought was a pretty safe second, maybe third-round pick as a running back. I mean, he's not that far removed from being a top guy. So am I terrified that he's gonna get the bulk? Not necessarily, because I think he can carry it and he's been the guy in the past. Obviously Charbonnet is fantastic, and losing that extra weapon is a blow. What I find interesting about this is I actually, as much as I think both the Rams and the Seahawks are very good teams and they come from an incredibly difficult division, I actually find the Rams to maybe be the most overrated team in the playoffs this year. And if you look at their two games, I mean, I think that sort of shows it. I mean, they darn near lost to Carolina Panthers, who, quite frankly, had no business being a playoff team, but for the fact that entire division was awful. I mean, the Panthers backed into the playoffs, and the Rams could barely beat them. And then Chicago darn near pulled off one of the biggest miracles. They had no business getting that final touchdown. I don't fully trust the Rams. I just don't. I don't trust their defense. Their offense is good. Obviously, Stafford is great. And I think what the Rams have proven is if the game is very close, they have the ability to get it done ultimately. But the reality is I don't have faith in them. And I think the Seahawks are a much better team overall. But here's my other thought, which is also why I don't know why everybody is so sold that the NFC is just going to blow out the AFC no matter what. Because I don't trust Sam Darnold either. I'm sorry. Okay. I don't know if he's ever proven in his career that when push comes to shove and the game is on the line, he can be that guy. Mm-hmm. I mean, he showed it in Minnesota. He turned into a pumpkin when they needed him most. I don't fully buy that he's the guy. I do think he's going to beat the Rams here because, like I said, I don't fully buy into the Rams, and I do think they're an overrated team, especially on defense, and I do think Seattle's going to win, and I don't think it's going to be super close. I don't think it's going to be a blowout the way San Francisco was. San Francisco they were pulled out of the crowd at this point with the amount of injuries they had. I mean, that was sort of, it is what it is. I think Seattle's going to win, maybe something like 30-20, something like that. I think it's going to be a higher scoring game than the other, than the Broncos Patriots. I'm not sold on either of them in the Super Bowl. And granted, obviously that's partially biased because I am picking the Patriots to make the Super Bowl and I want it to be a close game, obviously. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But just I think I'm not sold. I think that every team has flaws, and I don't think even the Seattle team, who does have a lot of good players and I think are the best set up to win, I think they have flaws and I think they're beatable. And so I don't, as far as this game goes, I think Seattle's better positioned than the Rams. So I think they're going to win. And I'm not too worried about Kenneth Walker, taking that role. But
yeah, that's true.
So Chris is saying McDonald's is going to come back in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah. Walker's actually a pending free agent. So this isn't time to really make some money if he can, go off against the Rams, and then obviously if Seattle makes the Super Bowl. We have some stats here. The Seahawks are home 2.5-point favorites. I haven't seen that line change at all throughout the week. It's definitely going to be another like 3 points or less game. Like I feel like it's going to come down to like 1 or 2 possessions basically, and it's kind of interesting because I've seen people say like for this game specifically, like Sean McVay kind of. He found a way the first time, and then the second time, they lost by 1, which is like I remember that game because I was on vacation. Kyron Williams had like a monster game. He had like 3 touchdowns or something. Like that.
Mm-hmm.
They're definitely gonna go with the run game.
It's just their defense fell apart.
Yeah.
The Rams did choke a lot of crucial games. They choked against the Eagles, they choked against the Panthers, and they choked against the Hawks at Lumen. Like that should have been a game they won. They had like 4 turnovers against Darnold.
Yeah,
that's a game they should have won. And I think it's gonna be a close game.
We sound like a Drake May MVP podcast right now, based on how we're talking.
Matt. I think Matt Stafford should be MVP because like. It's not just the fact that Drake may face against we continue and Stafford against the NFC West. It's like I just think Stafford had a better year, a slightly better year yet.
Well, I think Stafford lost the MVP to me that Falcons game. I think that's when Stafford lost the MVP.
Yeah,
I think that Falcons game really lost. I mean, I'm glad he's still a finalist because he really did have one of the best quarterback years in recent memory. But at the same time, you can't turn the ball over that many times against an Atlanta Falcons team on Monday Night Football that had really nothing to play for at that point. So,
yeah, right. Even then, I think Stafford probably lost there against the Panthers.
Yeah, that game against the Panthers too. But for me, this game is going to come down to if Sam Darnold can take care of the football. If he don't take care of the football on that point of where, like, I know the Rams are a flawed team, and I get that. But if the Rams make the Super Bowl, 2 weeks to prepare for Patriots defense that does have some flaws on, in the middle of the field with the young safeties, also opposite Christian Gonzalez. If the Rams O-line can protect that situation, against Milton Williams and all of that, I think the Rams, with the experience of McVay and Stafford, that's why I was leaning towards the NFC champion in that case, if it's the Rams. Now, if it's the Seahawks, you can have an argument because it's Sam Darnold in the big time moment until he proves it. Until Sam Darnold proves it, hopefully this weekend he can prove it to Seattle fans and the NFL fans everywhere. Mm-hmm. That's the storyline to me. I think the matchup, obviously, to watch is this defense of the Rams versus Sam Darnold. That's obviously the key matchup. That's how both games have been decided this season is, whether they turn the ball over against Darnold in clutch moments. And the Rams win, they did. The Rams lost on Thursday Night Thriller. Darnold actually clutched up with some key throws in fourth quarter and overtime. So that's obviously the matchup here that I'm watching. And I think Mike McDonald, I'll give him some props, as I didn't expect him to really be this. Oh,
I knew the whole time, man.
Well, no, I know the Ravens fan
knew
you
too, Andrew.
The potential of Mike McDonald was always there because, he had some great Ravens defenses. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, this Seattle defense has been the most impressive thing and the most underrated thing of this whole 25 season for me is because I didn't expect this level of play right away with some of the young pieces like Emmanuel Warrior and, Julian Love still doing his thing and, Devin Witherspoon adjust into the new system, and Tariq Woolen after he was benched earlier in the year now playing lights out again. It's a lot of great things about the Seattle defense. It's the most interesting thing, more so than the offense led by Kubiak and JSN. I think this defense is so much fun to watch as a neutral fan in this weekend. And if you watch this game for anything else, watch it for Seattle's defense because they're going to show some nice things. Granted, I think the Rams will still score points. I think this is like that shootout. I think it's going to be in the high 20s. But this Seattle defense will force some turnovers in this game. Book it.
Yeah. Jordan, I did see a stat, Devontae Adams missed, I think, the first game or the second game against this team. And then
it's gonna be him and Puka with that secondary. That's one of the key matchup. And it's factor. The Rams is their front seven. Jared first, like Kobe Turner. If they can get pressure against Darnold, he'll be seeing some goat steal soon. He'll be seeing some Sean McVay goats. He'll be seeing the 12 goats coming after him if they blow it. But that's back for the Seahawks. Besides Darnold, the run game, Kenneth Walker Jr. without Zach Charbonnet, it's gonna be a lot of pressure on him. But also linebacker Ernest Jones, that man's a beast. That he has to be in his A game if they're gonna win it. So I do think the Rams might cover, but I think Seattle's gonna win it barely because it's gonna be a close game. It's gonna be one of those high scoring close games where you're the over margin is gonna be big and some bettors are gonna be pissed. They're gonna be mad. They're you put my 42 under. In which what do you expect?
Right. I did mention on the podcast earlier this week, any non-NFL fan should watch this game solely because of the Seahawks defense. They're probably the closest thing to being not to that extent,
level,
but
that level yet.
But
a very solid unit.
Right. It I loved Nick Iramori in college. It makes sense the Ravens didn't draft him because he's kind of like that Kyle Hamilton type, and they already have him. But ever since I saw that, I'm he's gonna work in that system. We got final thoughts. Chris, you want to real quick talk about your thoughts on Pats versus Denver and then Seahawks versus Rams?
Yeah, so I was sort of going to say, my X factor for Seattle and the Rams is similar to what I'm going to be looking for from the Patriots. And I do think, Brandon brought it up already a little bit, but it's going to be the Rams defensive line versus Seattle's offensive line. Because what's the one thing the Patriots have done to cover up what Brandon just talked about? The weaknesses were, in their secondary as far as safety was to put the quarterback under siege. And I think that's what the Rams have to do. They have to put Sam Darnold under siege, and they have to bust through that offensive line and just keep putting pressure on him to cover up some of the weaknesses they have in their secondary. And I think if they can do that, that's the one chance they have of beating this Seattle team. And I think that's really what the Patriots are going to continue to have to do on their end too. It's going to be their defensive line versus the Denver offensive line. Now, granted, I think it's a little bit different in that I don't know if it's going to be putting pressure on Stidham as much as it's going to be, bottling up, the running backs and forcing Stidham to have to throw. I think that's the goal, is to force Stidham to throw more than Denver wants him to. I think is going to be the key there. But if you look back at the two games that the Patriots obviously won, they put Justin Herbert completely under siege, and that defensive line was just attacking him all game. And then last week, for all we made fun of CJ Stroud for the absurd amount of turnovers he had, the fact is, so much of that was forced by the fact that he was constantly running away from the Patriots defense. You know what I mean? They were going at him nonstop. And I think that's going to be their plan again here, you know, but instead of going after Stidham, they may be going after the running back. But I think it's the same concept. So I think really for both teams, you know, that's what you got to look at is how well the offensive lines hold up. You know, because quite frankly, it's true for the Patriots too. Denver's going to be doing the exact same thing to May, you know, and our offensive line is probably the biggest weakness for the Patriots overall is that offensive line. You know, poor Will Campbell got absolutely, you know,
again, they're facing a
destroyed last week. You know, so I really think offensive lines in all of these games are going to matter more than you know, more than anything. But I do see the Patriots coming out of it. I do see Seattle coming out of it, and I see, you know, a really close Super Bowl, a lot closer than people might think based on that matchup.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Before Brandon, before you go, you know, speak on your Super Bowl picks and final thoughts. Yeah, there's definitely a theme. Like, you know, we all see in the regular season, like the offenses go off, but I think like this year especially, like, you know, defense is actually winning in championships and in the regular season because it was like a statistically low year again for, you know, passing stats and rushing to a certain extent. Like, you know, JT was having a career year like for the first half, and then once the QB went down, it just all went downhill. And you know, like he kind of finished with like a normal season that you would expect for like a top 10 running back. Like nothing like crazy or anything, but yeah, like Brandon, like what are your final thoughts and who do you see in this year's Super Bowl?
So, final thoughts. Obviously, Chris hit it on the head with the Will Campbell. He has to play a lot better too against this Denver defense because if they attack like the Houston did, it might be a long day for Drake May in that offense because, you know, and I get Will Campbell was, you know, playing pretty well before he got hurt. And then ever since he's come back for that injury, he's been inconsistent. And that's probably the weakest part of that Patriots offense right now is that offensive line. Now, granted, they're a little younger. Like I said, fourth overall pick, Will Campbell, you know, going up against like Will Anderson Jr. and some of these studs like Khalil Mack and everything like that and everything. And I just don't know how that's going to look, you know, in a Super Bowl against Jared Verse, you know, if it is the Rams or if it's Seattle's case, that young pass rush. That's gonna be interesting. Now for the Rams Seahawks game, this is probably gonna be the best game of the playoffs. I of the whole playoffs, not including all the ones we already had. I just love this matchup. This matchup's provided some good thrills this year already. Both games have been within 2 points. You know, and I think it's gonna be within 2 points again. I think, you know, the spread, the 2.5 spread, if you got Seattle covering, you're insane. I don't think Seattle covers. I think it's going to be a 2-point game. And I do think this too. If Stafford and Nakua can go off in this game, like they did in the thriller, like the Thursday night thriller.
Yeah, Panthers.
And in the Panthers game and all that, if those two can go off, and if Seattle doesn't do a better job on Nakua, then it could be a long night for Seattle fans because Nakua is so much of what they do on offense. It revolves around Nakua, and it is a scary sight if Nakua gets going. I will say that. I also will say this: Kobe Durant is really, really underrated at the corner spot for the Rams. He's going to have a tough assignment, though, against JSN. I think JSN is probably playing like the best receiver in the league right now, other than Nakua. And I just think JSN is going to have a field day against this Rams secondary, unlike what DJ Moore was doing against them last week. And then and that's the thing. Coker had a big touchdown in the first game, and so Stafford drove down the field late. So I like Coker. Don't get me wrong, but he ain't no JSN. He ain't no Rashid Shaheed. You know, all these, and he ain't no Cooper Kupp. And I think Cooper Kupp's going to be motivated to beat his old team.
Oh yeah,
in this scenario too. So I like, I think Seattle's going to come out, obviously. And I like the Patriots. I do like the Patriots, like Chris said, to win that game just because. And I was probably, be honest, leaning Denver before the Bo Nix news. I was leaning the Broncos just because I think Bo Nix was going to control that game enough to beat the Patriots. And I think, the Denver defense is ferocious. With that being said, I am going to pick New England, and we're going to have that rematch of, the one in Arizona where, Butler picked it off on the 1 yard line. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Jordan, you want to state your Super Bowl picks and any final thoughts?
Final thought: Drake May throughout this playoff was sacked in total 10 times. Five against the Chargers, 5 against the Texans. If they can limit the damage, like he'll do fine against the Broncos defense. Like it's just that like I just feel like the Broncos offense will be three will have a lot of 3 and outs and like just batter, but just get that defense out too long until like May figures it out. That's why I feel like yeah, the Patriots are probably going to win this game.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Seattle and the Rams. If the Rams secondary could play well, like they have a chance. That defensive front is very solid, and that could be a top 5 front in the next couple of years. But I just see this as a close game where Seattle wins because I don't trust their secondary. Like, again, wide open. Caleb Williams heaves it to the heavens. The Colt commands.
Right.
You can't allow that, man. You can't allow that. And they barely won that game against the Bears. Barely. Because DJ Moore tried to sleepwalk. But my Super Bowl pick is probably going to be Seahawks Pats. And I think it's gonna be a fun one. It's probably gonna be ugly for a bit, but like it's gonna be a fun one. But those are my final thoughts.
Yeah, same. I think it's gonna be hard to get away from picking the Seahawks and Pats. I do want to see Denver Rams though in the Super Bowl. It wouldn't be good, but it would just be interesting. It'll
be a massacre. It'll make Seattle Denver look like oh my god, Patriots Rams. It'll be that bad. It'll be a legit massacre. Like Stinson will probably be hurt. They're gonna start Sam Ellinger. Let's go, Sam. You're gonna be thrown to the wolves.
Yeah. I don't know. I just want to. Because like it is like 2 home teams and like. They're both like close to being like they were close to being like the 1 seed for both conferences. So but you guys are right. Like for the Patriots, like as long as they can handle, I think as long as the Patriots offense doesn't have too many turnovers, I think this win they should win. Like because I think. The Patriots defense has actually gotten better, but their offense struggled. But it was against better like defenses. But Denver a good defense.
Like the Chargers defense was strong. It's just that Justin Herbert had an offensive line,
right?
And it was being mauled. So yeah.
So, and then the Rams Seahawks. Like I just think the Seahawks. It's their year this year. Like. That's just what I've felt like for most of the season. So I'm going to go with them. But, yeah, so that'll do it for the Total Apex NFL Media Podcast. Make sure to tune in next week. We're going to be, previewing the Super Bowl and recapping the games. But, yeah, Chris, do you want to plug anything? And where can we find your work?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've actually got my handle on Twitter up here right now at ChristianB617. Although I do love talking about sports, my primary area is actually gaming. And so if you're interested in gaming as well, come check us out there. And I do baseball stuff as well. So baseball season will be right around the corner. So come check it out, and obviously keep checking out Total Apex Media. We got lots of great stuff going on across all our platforms. So keep checking us out because we're just gonna keep coming out with that awesome content. So don't forget about us.
Totally. Brandon?
My Twitter handle is also on the screen too, and as the assistant sports site manager, most of my content will be on sports. I can't wait. We're having big plans over on the sports site. We're having merger with fantasy and bets pretty soon. Can't wait for that because I've been missing my fantasy content, and I just, so I'll be back on that grind as soon as the merger happens. So that's what I'm waiting for. So with that content, but I'll be still covering the Eagles off-season stuff on the sports site, NBA stuff, the Olympics, all that.
I just
stuff.
want to comment. Yeah, for sure. Jordan, where can we find your work?
All right. Let's get these shout outs going. Well, you can find my Twitter at JJohn6890 at Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, all that good stuff. You can also find my writing at Total Apex Media, Total Apex Sport, Total Apex Fantasy, all that good stuff. As I finish all these betties and fantasy football stuff, hopefully Andrew help me out with the NBA stuff. It's gonna be going well with all those bets and stories. You also find my live stream Sports Ramble with Jordan Ramos on the X. Well, no, not Twitter. It's Twitter. It's Twitter, YouTube, Twitch.
Yeah.
Later tonight at 9. So hopefully I'll see some of you there. If not, have a great night, everyone.
For sure. I just stupidly forgot my Twitter handle, but it's Cookie Kim 1357. I run the best fantasy site, and like Brandon said, we're going to be doing the merger soon, and you're going to see a lot of new content there. I've been talking with one of our writers. We're going to do some more dynasty stuff, and getting ready for NBA as well, along with like covering the Super Bowl and things like that. But yeah, make sure to tune in next week for all your Super Bowl coverage, and great to see you soon.